about recently. And we'll look at the whale and how it was made, and talk about some of the issues that you raised in your earlier work. So the first thing about the whale is that it's made with a large group of people. And all the work that you had just been showing, for the most part, is made. You even described making that big chair by yourself.
I didn't sew that.
Okay. Is your mic on? So this is an image of the Fabric Workshop and Museum. Yeah, that's good. It might just be, let's see how it is. It's a little bit under, maybe this. But Tristan, what is going on in this image here in terms of the drawing on the whale and the pictures on the wall? How did you actually go about figuring out to make a piece that size?
That size?
Yeah.
Well, that was easy because that's the size a real whale is.
Okay.
So you got to make it that size.
Okay.
I didn't want to shift scale with the piece. I wanted its own scale to be what was more you reacting to. You know, sort of like it is huge, but it's not huger than it really should be.
Right.
In fact, they get bigger. You know. So I didn't want to shift scale in that way. And this is just working out. These are some of the, like I guess you can kind of see some of the tail shots where I'm studying sort of different tails. They're all so different. And really basically doing life drawing from some of these. These are actually stills from video footage where I would found tons of video footage and was able to freeze it, you know, download it, freeze it, and draw from it. And then sort of the larger drawing is basically a large photograph of the model that I made based on those drawings, and starting to work out some of, like, in a really early way, like really early on, like some of the mark making and where a lot of that. They do have this amazing thing that happens is that part of the body, the spermaceti, that is what the oil that we hunted them for, they're able to turn into a solid, into a wax by taking it. They're not exactly sure, but it's like a close temperature thing, so they flip it into a solid when they're going to go down. But the rest of their body really does take on a lot of wrinkling. After all those atmospheres of pressure, there's some insane amount of pressure.
So you're studying that here, and
Yeah.
we'll see in a little while how you incorporated that into the surface.
Yeah.
So more studying.
Yeah, just different kind of layout, trying to get the body, you know, like how I wanted it to sit and sort of nestle in the space and how you would come upon it first and things like that.
And here's the model.
And those are actually starting to work out the zipper lines, because that was going to be so important, but also how we integrated that in through that's early on, but that's similar to some of them, is how they're going to sort of weave through and hopefully accentuate the form in a way, not be cutting against it.
And so here you started, so you're dividing it up into, what is it, 11?
There's 11 body sections of the main body, and then there's the dorsal, the two pectoral fins, and the tail.
And so you, from what you showed about your work, you'd actually been working with inflatables from pretty much the beginning of your work, actually, from very early on.
Yeah, there was some crazy notions about like breathing life into stuff. So like that was kind of,
But in
and
this
blowhard
case-
and a lot of hot air.
But those were mostly handmade.
Yeah.
And so here you've worked with a company that makes vinyl inflatables.
Yeah. Well, we did actually with Alice too originally. That was the first time. Because the Fabric Workshop, even though I think they had the skills to do it, they really didn't have any of the, they hadn't done it before. And in a way, they also want to sort of try and do new stuff and get exposed to other things. Like, and this form was, like we could have sewn, this was way too complicated, nor did we have the time. Like just doing the armature is a whole other really massive undertaking.
And then here's the inside,
Yeah.
which most people don't get to see.
Yeah.
But it's really like a whole kind of corset, in a sense. It's got all these fins and ropes stretching across. And what is the function of those just to keep the definition of the external
What
shape?
like a balloon is going to want to blow up like a balloon or a sausage, right? And in order to pull it into the different muscle groups and get that definition, because I was really sort of trying to get like a taxidermy form in a sense. I want it to be anatomically correct. And in order to do that, you kind of need to be pulling it in between and defining each of those muscles. And that's what this kind of does and allows us to adjust that, because there is some twerking and twisting that happens as you pull in. And we made some prosthetics, one under the chin and two under basically what would be the thighs and the calf, to sort of right him and get him back to the proper proportions, because it kind of got taken down a little too much. So we made these, and here we are sort of, at this point we've already figured out how to make our barnacles. That took a little bit of time.
So there's this little stack of circles
Yeah, that,
here, and then
we could keep the factory going on. And then this was, this is early pieces where we're sort of trying to work out earlier skin sort of stuff, but also like what different ways that, like this is not the way the zippers are going to work, but it was an early suggestion and not a good one, but you know what I mean? Basically, there is this amazing sort of engineering feat that goes on with how all those zippers come down. I don't know, I think you were there to see like when you finally do kind of close them all up and none of that vinyl is left anymore.
Right.
It really does kind of get a suit.
And then this was what I was mentioning early on, that these are two slides of this plastic footprint where we tried to figure out how it would fit in the gallery. And here it is on one side of the gallery. This is actually where it did not go eventually.
Yeah.
And then this is where it is right now. This is actually the exact placement. And so
minus the tail. That was the one part of our little template.
That's right. The tail wasn't
good
quite
footprint
there.
of our tail.
But once I determined that it was going to fit, I then had to bring you down to see if you liked, first off to see if we were reading it right, and then to see if you liked it, because every place else it's been shown, it's in a big open space.
Yeah.
And here it has the feeling of wrapping around that column.
Yeah, it's almost like it was made for it.
So you in the end came to like it quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And even flipped the tail up onto
Yeah,
the
like a
wall.
little whale tail kick up, sort of skateboard.
And to make it interact more with
Yeah, it does. I think we were skirting it so close with the column that even made it even better to kind of have it come up on the wall.
And then here's what you were talking about, where in the gallery it's being pieced together.
Yeah, this is the hardest part to put on, really, because everything then has to fall in line with this piece. You never really get it right the first time, but you have to go back and forth with it.
And then sewing it onto these tabs.
Not sewing,
I'm sorry, tying it.
tying.
Here you can see it when
It's
you
kind of a
saw it.
funny shot.
I like that shot. Action shot.
Yeah, yeah.
And
A
that's
lot
the
of work.
prosthetic you were talking about, right? The little.
Yeah, you see it kind of, it's about the size of a kid's swimming pool, little swimming pool. Right
To actually
there,
get the nose off the ground.
Yeah, and to just fill them out there, it's like I said, some of that corseting and some of the restitching that was done and stuff did pull in the vinyl more than it really needed to.
And then more of a finished shot. So let me ask you a question about, just starting with materials for a
Yeah.
minute. Working with felt, how did you get to the point where you,
I think you should click one more slide.
well, let's see, sure.
Not that, it's not.
Which
I thought there was the
What's,
next stuff coming out. No, you got all that stuff.
oh, the small felt objects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask about
Yes,
how
I
to
do.
develop?
Yes, I do.
It's at the
Okay.
end. All right.
So how did you get to the point where you're working with felt, and why was that an appealing material?
Okay. And I'm not going to answer any of that.
You're not going to?
No, I will. I'll try. Anyway,
Okay.
it started out with like that bottle and chair. There's actually an earlier chair. The very first thing is actually that metal chair that you saw that was like a brick, that little dysfunctional chair that I had. I made that and felt that was the very first felt piece. And it was kind of like that work, all that mechanicals kind of work, had kind of come to like an end of sorts. You know, we made this little book at Arcadia College, and in a weird way, I put Dumbo on the front cover and Dumbo on the back cover, and right on Dumbo's butt it says the end. And in a weird way, it really did end that stuff. With the refrigeration and the rockets and everything, the palette was just, it just felt like it was getting too, like I felt like I just needed to reel it all back in and wipe it off and quiet things down. And I had just read Cormac McCarthy's The Road, and it was just this amazing thing. I had this huge roll of felt that had been given to me, and I'd had it for like 6, 8 years, 6 foot high, 1.125" thick, massive felt. And you know, it's like, boys, morons. It's like all this. I didn't have anything that was my own for that felt. But you know, you're kind of hoarding this material, thinking it's too good to give up. It was given to you, and then you gotta hold on to it until you figure out how to do it. And after reading The Road and these depictions of this landscape that covered in ash and just a silence and a stillness, in a weird way was what I was after with what I was trying to do with my palette, quiet everything down. And you can kind of see that, like some of the latter pieces, like the big chair and the metal chair, there's no motors in them, but the scale or their gesture is still, for me, was sort of implying a lot of that animation and that humanistic quality that I was after. And so like that humanity was being translated in another way. And that felt, all of a sudden, I remember having this felt, you know, it's just been squirreled away. And it was like that ash and that monochromatic palette and almost that absorptive quality of the felt. Like, I think of it as almost like stiller than still, like a still life depicted in dust, you know. There was like this stratification, that's like aspects of it. And I just found a way to relate to the felt. And so I started tearing down and making these sort of detritus, sort of like bottles and chairs. And
so how did it segue into something
massive
and
they started to get a little more complicated. There was a trash can at 40 ounce in the model making and pattern making and stuff. This started to get a little more complicated, and at that key time I was presented from the fabric workshop of doing another piece, and I wanted to do it in felt. I mean, I knew the material.
Where did whale come in?
Well, this work was more depressing and almost more like out of
these pieces.
Yeah, like they're darker and sort of more about consumption and waste and stuff like that. All these empties, kind of white trash materials and things like that. It was not what I wanted on a grand gesture. You know, if I'm gonna do, I want to celebrate. These were like things that I was doing, like I didn't even want people to see them at first. You know, they were just kind of like studio works. You know, like just kind of get like it was like this weird doldrums after the mechanical stuff and the big chair. It was just like I was kind of adrift. And so those were much quieter pieces and things. And this was like kind of things that already started picking up.
But I'm still looking for that kernel of why the whale. So we know you're interested in large scale, and you work with inflatables, and the felt is of interest now. And you said now you figured out a way to make it your own and not look like just a voice or rubber.
Yeah, it's not. It's more in the same kind of gesture of taking on making a giant chair too. It's like a quest. It's like Ishmael at the beginning of the book being called to the sea, right? He's like, it's called for doing something greater, right? It's your ambition. It's shooting for the moon. It's right. You go for it all. And the whale and being from New England and Melville and Hawthorne were really important to me. And I think that's the archetypal way. I mean, I used to draw, in my other slide thing, there's like drawings that I did when I was a kid. I had a couple of whale drawings up there when I was 5, it's like, it's almost like this elusive and being this white whale.
So
It's almost like, in some ways I think of like this absurdist thing, but also like almost like the same thing that I think of like Beckett's like Waiting for Godot or something. You're like searching for, and in a way what Ahab's doing, but not in that vengeful seeking, but that quest of this unattainable or something, like going for. The whale was symptomatic of some kind of majestic, and it linked to the yesteryear glory thing that I also kind of wanted. I don't know, it's the whaling thing, this industry. I don't
So
know if
it's
that
really
answers
kind
your
of got
question.
yeah, well, it sounds like it's got the duality that a lot of your work has, where there's a kind of sad or almost even forlorn side to this huge sort of beached creature. At the same time, it's there in the gallery. It's a ghost. It's immense. It's majestic. It's monumental. But then also, when you relate it to the material, to something like the road, then it's got this kind of post-apocalyptic quality.
Yeah, I wasn't wanting the post-apocalyptic aspect on my whale, but I don't control what people think of it. I don't own that. So, yeah, you can think whatever you want. But there is a little bit of that, like something, a reverence for something that was. I guess there's a past, a melancholy.
Well, even looking at some of these pieces, you're talking about things that are used up and are empty.
Yeah.
And,
Totally.
And then there's this quality with whaling, of course, of man versus nature, the domination of nature. So it seems like that.
And it's back with the nature thing, man-nature thing. I just don't want to be killing all.
Let's look at where the felt went around the same time as the whale, right?
Right after.
Right after.
Yeah.
And this is how tall? Like 6, 8 feet?
12 and a half.
12 and a half feet.
40 feet around.
And it's called lunacy.
That's right. It's part of this under the influence installation.
So this was made for the Rhode Island Museum of Art, Risley Museum of Art, and now it's in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And what's glowing around the other side is this. So you went toward the felt, you were able to kind of quiet the palette down and reduce the things to a sort of monochrome, but then you brought back in electronics and that kind of scientific quality.
There's something, and I guess that, you got me thinking of this yesteryear thing and this like neon music. But there's something really wonderful just on a formal level of using this sort of material that sort of absorbs energy and sound and light and vibration and stuff like that, and also to use it to kind of depict the moon, which is this really, maybe in some, I know we found 26 gallons of water there not that long ago, or ice. But the landscape, that landscape is directly influenced by the landscape that I felt like I was starting to get, or I needed to take issue with on the whale. Like there was a real concern that the whale at 52 feet could be like a big blank white wall. And so that the integration of all that stuff with the scars and the gashes and that language really needed to be developed. And in that development, I started to see it like a landscape and like a sort of topographical study or something. And that started leading me into that and maybe a little bit of that desolate mound. But this wonderful, this is our first celestial body. This is like, before Galileo sort of, he gets excommunicated from the church for sort of seeing all the imperfections in the moon. It's this wonderful history, too, of everything that's ever happened. One of the current theories is that it collided with a a Mars-sized object collided with the Earth 4.6 billion years ago, and sheared off part of the Earth, and sheared itself up and floated around for a couple billion years, and through a process of accretion, both things came back together. And they think that all the comets right now, or one of the theories is that all the water on the planet came to us from comets and stuff like that.
And speaking of comments,
Yeah.
this is an even more recent piece.
Yeah.
And so continuing to work with neon and
It's the gas and stuff, like in a weird way, this is the noble gases and stuff like that. And you really see, I use clear glass, and you really, this is neon and that was argon, the blue is argon. And so you really see that electrification and spark, like in a sense, like a spark, a core. And that really plays wonderfully off of the felt in a way, for me. I really love how they interact.
and then the piece cycles on and on in the
Yeah.
exhibition. And
Well, a comet like spends what 99.9% of its life as a frozen cluster of ice and rock and amino acids or whatever, and it's only as it enters an atmosphere that it lights up and does the fireworks. So I also think it's really beautiful as sort of a crystal chandelier of sorts or something.
well, it also allows you to see the
Yeah.
mechanics. So on one hand, you're seeing it as almost like an image.
Yeah.
In a sense, it has a kind of drawn quality, even a sort of iconic. Or
That's what I love
cartoon-like
about too,
quality.
using the neon, is it's really a 2D work, and that's always been used for signage and sort of writing, and to be able to sort of take that and just roll it into the ground
Yeah.
and sort of, get a launch.
And then let you see the guts here.
Yeah.
And then that whole idea of kind of off and on, or things that expand or collapse or
Breathe.
They breathe, basically. You did the same thing here with Alice, where it was fully inflated, and then every so often it would cycle off and collapse.
Yeah.
And I remember actually being disturbed by that.
As you should.
Well, I guess that's good. It was disturbing. But later came to really understand that it added this whole kind of life to it, as opposed to just being a sort of static image. Right in front of your eyes, it might just collapse.
Yeah, and it
then-
does like crinkling, kind of as it caves in.
And then it will suddenly start up again. So I'm going to pause here, even though there's more questions that I
Okay.
have, and see if there's questions from the audience, and then we'll actually try our Twitter feed here. And because we don't have a microphone, I guess just speak loudly. The fellow in the back looks like he would speak loudly.
Yep.
Sure. First, I just want to say thanks for letting me for the whiteness of the whale.
Oh, thank you for coming and seeing it.
And second one is the eyes of the
Yeah.
whale. No buttons, no black inside, but white streak.
I had all these drawings and studies of the eyes and stuff, and I tried originally sort of sewing up a felt pupil, and it just was the wrong thing. And that depth and sort of just gave so much more of a presence in a way, in a way somewhat allowing you to project, It kind of opened it up more. And by putting it in, no matter how I stitched it, it just was like dead. It wasn't right. I don't know, did you like that? What did you think?
Yeah, I did, actually. The first time I came to see it, someone asked me how to do the eyes. I said, I don't know. I came back to see it again. And, yeah, I don't know the black glass or anything.
No, the introduction of another material was never what I wanted to really do, but it just didn't work and felt
Maybe I'll send him
whatever
an
kind
email.
of stitching. Focus I should on. Are they trying to get that one?
I'm trying to get back to you while
Oh,
we're talking.
okay.
I don't have my phone right
Other
now.
questions? Yes.
I wondered that about the mouth as well, question about the eye.
Yeah.
Where would the mouth be?
Actually, it's really funny. They don't have like this giant mouth like Mephisto in Pinocchio. Their mouth, it's there, it's closed, it's underneath, but it's really maybe only like this wide at the jaw, and then it tapers down. And it's, it's like 12 or 14, feet long. And it only has teeth. Yeah, it's right. It's actually like it starts right up in here. And it comes all the way forward to this little part under here. And it only has teeth on the bottom, and they fit in up top. And they think that it had the largest brain of any creature ever on the planet. And it's like, it eats over 1,000 pounds of squid a day. And they think that the colossal and giant squid, which are the opposite, the males grow to be the largest in the sperm whale. And in the squids, in the cephalopods, they grow, it's the opposite. The females are the largest. And they're over 65 feet long. And they have these they have these rotating claws, if you will, on parts of their, these clubs that they have. But, they think they use their sonar to send a sonic ping. I saw video footage of a guy in the water swimming with one, and it was just up close, and he just started to send out pings, and the guy was like, all of a sudden got nervous feeling them because they travel like a sound wave in the water, and they think they knock the squid out for a second and track it, and then just grab it. Then the battle ensues, I guess, but usually there's a winner.
Other questions?
Oh, you down front. Are what?
Are barnacles good for the
I think they probably have a good, happy relationship. I think the barnacles provide a service for the whale in sort of cleaning some of that foodstuffs and things like that he might be kind of a messy eater or something. Some of that stuff needs to be cleaned off of him. So I think it's okay.
Yes.
How long does it take to put the whale up in a museum and then also to dismantle it too?
Putting it up is really only a few days, really, right? I mean, we're getting faster and faster at it, but 3 days or something. There's a lot of crates, and now there's a really great system to sort of laying everything out. And every place you come has a different layout, so can the crates be in the same space, or do they have to be in another space? And those are just logistics that you work out. It's not that difficult. But about 3 days, if things are all good.
So someone on Twitter wants to know if you plan to create any other animals.
No, I don't plan to.
Though you never know, right?
I never know. I'll eat those words, I'm sure.
And someone else wants to know, where did you find such huge zippers?
Oh, well, it was funny. The zippers created a problem at one point, trying to track me down. We actually were originally had sort of, in all the testing and stuff, used this European company. I can't remember their name. But then it was like, they would have to do this special thing for us to make them the sizes we wanted, and they wanted like $700 for all these zippers, and that was just way out of our budget. And what is it, XY or XYK or K? What is it? Yeah, they made them.